All right, guys. Well, we're going to start charcoal, and a few things to go over. One is you'll need a few different materials. You'll need your 2 charcoal pencils. If you didn't get 2, at least have the one, either an HB or a 2B. If you were missing one of those 2, you can come in. I tried to make sure that everyone got both of them, but if you didn't get one, make sure that you come in and get it. But so I have a 2B here, and I have a different one than you guys have. It's an H, and it's the kind that you can pull down and then like unwrap the paper. But notice both of them have exposed quite a bit, so the same way we sharpen a pencil, sharpen the charcoal. The charcoal is going to be softer, so you have to be a little bit more careful that you don't break the charcoal as you're sharpening. But it's the same method that we've been using before. You just come back like this and use the back of your thumb like this and just slowly etch away. And but you want to expose a good amount of the charcoal. It comes like this, right? It doesn't give you a whole lot to work with. When you do this, it gives you a lot to work with. So that's why we want to sharpen like that. And then obviously take it to the sandpaper like this, right here, and just get it to a nice point. And we want it nice and sharp. So that's what we do with the charcoal. You'll also need, no pun intended, need a kneaded eraser. And you'll most likely, if you haven't used it yet, pull it out. It's packaging, a nice big wad of it right here. And you have a pink pearl eraser in your kit. You can use that, or you can just use, like, right off the bottom of this regular pencil, I have an eraser right here. That works fine too. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through a few different exercises with the charcoal, a couple different methods of how we can use the charcoal, and hopefully by the end of this you'll be really confident when you go in to do your grid drawings with the charcoal. So we'll talk about a couple different things that you can do with it. So go ahead and take a blank piece of paper. If you have the art paper that I have here in the classroom, great. If not, if you just have a regular piece of copy paper, that will work fine. And the first thing we want to do is start off with, we're going to do a method with just kind of an additive method where we're not pulling away anything with the eraser. We might use our eraser a little bit if we make mistakes or need to cut back, but we're not going to really draw with the eraser. So the first method right here is an additive, which means that we're not pulling away. So I'll show you, and I'm going to start out with my H pencil, or you can start out with your HB, but if you work with the 2B, it's fine. It's not a big deal, either one. But all I want to do is I just want to come in like this, create my value chart, pull this away right here, create my value chart. So I just want 5 equal squares, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't need to go that big. There we go. Like that. And we're just going to create our value chart. This is just to get you used to using the charcoal. So I'm using an H right now. Some of you got an HB. Some of you got a 2B. This is a 4B right here. Again, they all get darker as they go into the B's and higher numbers. So 4B is darker and softer than an H, and a 2B is harder than the 4B, but it's softer than the H, so makes sense. Same thing with charcoal as we see with the pencil. Okay, so this is going to be my white, then we're going to get a little bit darker, a little bit darker, a little bit darker, and then we're going to here. Right, our additive method is going to be using the pencil to come in and put in our value. The reason I do charcoal with you guys, why we teach charcoal, is charcoal's awesome for so many reasons. One of the reasons I love charcoal is that it covers a large area really quickly. Another reason that I love charcoal is that you can get a wider range of value. So with pencil, you can get pretty wide range of value, but it takes a lot more, and charcoal can go much faster. And yeah, you can just get really, really dark with the charcoal. it also acts a lot like paint, and we'll talk more about how that works, or how it works like paint. I really like charcoal for that aspect, is that it's very similar to working with paint. Okay, so I'm just going to use the side. Notice I haven't used the tip. I'm just using the side of my charcoal pencil to come in. And if you're working with this textured art paper like I am, then you can come in and just slowly fill in all those little ridges, little valleys in the paper to create this nice and black. If you push too hard, you can break the lead. So we don't want to break the lead. So I'm going to just slowly build this up to the point where I have a nice black square. And if I came in with the 4B right here or the 2B, I could go a lot darker. But I'm just going to do it with the H for now, so you guys can see this. Okay, so that's pretty black. It's got some texture to it, which I actually really like. But that's all I need. And then you can blow on it to get kind of that excess, those little excess dust, that dust of the charcoal dust out of the way. Okay, we need to go from here. So notice we haven't done anything with the eraser on this. I'm just adding. I'm slowly adding and adding and adding. So this right here, come in with this. And this is going to be, we're going to come to our halfway point, and then we'll fill in this one and this one. So halfway point. Notice how consistent my lines are. Trying to keep this all the same value all the way across this little box, this little square. And that's looking pretty good. If we went too dark, which I think it might be a little too dark, to use our eraser, instead of coming in and pushing it around, you'll notice that it will get everything else dirty. If I came in like this and pushed it, I'll probably get charcoal all over in here and somewhere in here if I were to go across like this. So, and we also don't want to push the charcoal into the paper so much. Smudging, it'll make it harder for me to erase. So instead of pushing or scrubbing it, I'm just going to dab it. So I'll get like a kind of round area like this, and I'll just slowly pull away. Because right now it's just kind of sitting on top of the paper, above the fibers of the paper. So if I come in like this and just dab my needed eraser just a little bit, like that, I can pull away a lot. And I haven't ruined the fibers of the paper. I haven't done anything to push the stuff in. And if I have to come back in and clean it up a little bit, I can. But that looks pretty good. Let's make this nice and clean. That looks pretty good. So what I need to do now is I need to create this one. I need to create this one. So I'll come in here, and again, everything is all about just being patient. I'll come this way first. Maybe I'll come back like this. But notice how fast I can cover an area with charcoal. It goes so much quicker than with pencil, with graphite. Okay, so that's pretty good. I can darken this one just a little bit more. Okay, and then our next square over is almost white, but not quite. So I'm not going to be very hard on this. I'll be really light. Use the side of my pencil or charcoal I should say, but charcoal pencil, and just lay in kind of a wash here. Very lightly. Don't want to push too hard. So there's our value chart. And if you're doing this and you notice that charcoal is messy, you're right. It is a little messy. It's easy to get charcoal on your hands. Your hands can get a little bit dirty, and you don't want to wear white, but hence I am wearing white today, so obviously not following my own rules, but it's not smart to wear white. But that's okay. But you don't want to wear white, just get dirty really quickly. So that's additive. I haven't done really any erasing. I haven't done any work with my eraser other than just to pull out a little bit of that middle section. And I will do the sphere now. I'm going to just do it with the 2B just so you guys can see. It's a little bit darker. And with the sphere here, you come in like this. Right here, and come in like that, and fill in my shadow, and my cast shadow as well. I gotta remember to do that. Okay, always think about your tangent line, right, from my angle right here. Here's my angle of the value, or the light source coming down like this, right? We can see the sphere. If they were to see an eye, be able to see through the glass or see through this sphere, you'd see the other side. So I'm going to make that little ellipse, and then come in, create my sphere. I have my cast shadow coming off, and it would come out to about that point. And okay, so I have this right here. Come in and create this. Here's my terminator. And then, and then from the terminator, that change from light to dark, or light to dark, is going to happen drastically. It's going to happen really quickly, very fast. Even though it gets lighter and lighter and lighter as it makes its way across here, I still want this to be, that transition to be fairly quick. I don't want the dark to creep up too far up this way. I want it to be a very subtle change in value. Okay, and I could spend hours and hours refining this if I wanted to. I know some of you think that that's crazy, but I don't know, I just really love drawing spheres and just trying to work with the most simple shape and form and get better and better at it. So that's just something I love. So we'll see this right here. We have sphere, cast shadow, fill that in, and we're good to go. As I come up like this, right, as it slowly gets lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter up towards this point right here, we also have that highlight, and the highlight is that specular highlight, the highlight that moves with you as you move around an object, which is in relation to where you're at. Because the form is going to change, right? It's going to always come up to this point right here, which is where our brightest point of the form is going to be. But the highlight, especially on something that's very smooth, is going to be very pronounced, and that changes. And usually, if you're looking on the side of an object like this, that specular highlight is going to sit somewhere around here. So I can either leave it alone and just kind of work around it like that. As it slowly gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And notice all of these lights are still lighter than my darks down here, right? This doesn't get as bright as this up here. But here's my highlight right here. And if I kind of just work additively, I'm just going to slowly build up towards that little highlight that's there. And if I wanted to, I could come back in with my eraser and I could just pull it up. That is working additively, so we are always using our pencil to do the majority of the work. And I like that method the most. That's the way I try to draw now. But the way I learned, or the way I used to draw with charcoal, and it's another great way to do it, and it teaches you a lot, is to work more subtractively or negatively. Subtractively is probably a better word for it. But this is where we're going to lay down some charcoal. So I'm going to create my 5 here, right here, and we're going to blend. Now, if you have some tissue paper, like this, so just normal tissue paper, this is Kleenex, and if you don't have your blender, come and get your blender from me, or if you have a blender, awesome, but if you don't have something like this, you can also take just like a piece of paper and roll it up and use that to blend, kind of in the same, if you were to just like roll it up like into a cone, you can use that. But if you don't have one of these, come and get one from me. And we're going to work more subtractively on this next sphere. So to blend, blending gives you really smooth results. So if you're trying to make something look very smooth, then you can blend it. So I'm going to use 4B this time right here, and I'm going to go nice and dark. And notice I only have to put down a little bit. And I can either use the tissue paper or I can use the blender to come in like this, and this is how charcoal acts a lot like paint, is that you're pushing around that dust and pushing it into the paper, and it acts kind of like paint where you're pushing around paint. Notice how quickly I was able to cover that area, right? And I could go darker if I wanted to, keep going over and over and over and over it, but I'm going to stop right there. Next thing right here, I'm going to use my 2B pencil on this one, but if I come in like this, but I could use my 4B too, but I'm just going to come in like this. Notice I don't have to go very dark. In fact, I might have gone too dark. Yeah, I did go too dark, but I can use my eraser to pull that back out, because we want it to be relatively the same value as this right here. So we're close, but I think I went a little too dark in one of these areas. I'm going to see if I can pull this out. Notice when you blend something, it is a little bit harder to erase. And you'll just have to practice with it to get used to it, but it is a little bit harder to erase something once you've really blended it in there and pushed it into the fibers of the paper. So notice I'm going to go a little bit darker this time, trying to get this value right here. It's pretty close. And then, let's see, I'm going to use that 2B again. Or an HB would be great right here, but I'm just going to barely put any in. And then I can blend it. These tips right here, if you already have charcoal on there and put it on there, it'll make a really big, like, black streak on there. But the cool thing about these little blending tools is that you can sharpen them. So I can take off the tip like this and just sharpen it back down to regular white, like that, and then get rid of all this stuff. Go back in and I can blend it. So now we have our values. So it all kind of almost acts like markers. Like it's just the way that you get these little streaks and move it around and stuff. It's pretty cool. So that's additive. This is more of a blended type, and then I can come back in and erase if I need to go darker. And this is what we're going to do with our tissue paper. You could have done that with the tissue paper too. I could have come in here like this and spread it around with the tissue paper. That works as well. The tissue paper will tend to pull more up, but that's fine. Our next sphere then is going to be more of a subtractive method. Some call it like a charcoal sweep, and I've learned how to use charcoal this way before. So instead of coming in and drawing the sphere like this, what we want to do is we're going to create a value and lay down a tone. We're going to tone the paper like this. And then use the tissue paper and just lightly sweep across. We don't want to push too hard. Don't blend it into the paper too hard. I'm just going to sweep across like this. And then figure out my sphere, kind of get a good idea of this object. Won't be able to see it very well, but you'll see it as soon as I start erasing. But I'm just going to come in, create my sphere, and then I'm going to draw with my eraser. So this method is really helpful if you have a large area that is dark or maybe a medium gray, and then you have small areas in that are really bright or that are lighter. I see it a lot of the time when people are drawing hair, and some massive area of the hair is dark, and then you might have like little wisps of hair that are coming off that you can see that are catching the light that are like really bright or something like that. That's a really good way to use this method, is to kind of put in a dark and then come back in and pull out the light. So watch what I do with this eraser. I'm going to come in and I'm just going to think negatively or think subtractively. All the areas that are light here, I want to darken. So as I come in here, I'll push a little bit harder, and then as I slowly reach this core shadow, I'm going to get lighter and lighter and lighter and pull less and less off of the sphere. There's that right there. And then I can come back in with my pencil and I can kind of render that core shadow. Like that. All right, and so we have two different methods. We have one where we're kind of going in with the eraser and drawing with the eraser, and the other one is just purely additive. We use the pencil and we come in and draw with the pencil. So right now we have the sphere, and it's nice and textured, which I really like. You can still make things look very smooth, but have a little bit of a texture, and the charcoal kind of rests on the surface. If you want to blend it, you can. So we're going to blend this one, because I want to show you how to do that. So using my blender tool, I can come in here and just kind of with a little bit of nudging around, I can slowly, I'm just using kind of little circular motions. And I don't want to go too dark. If I come up here and really push, I'll make all of this dark, and then you won't see the ball anymore. It'll just be all dark. So I'm just going to come in here, but notice as I slowly blend this, once you've done this, it's a little bit harder to erase. It's really kind of stuck into those fibers. Sorry, it's so shaky. And I can use that eraser, come in, pull the little highlight out, and then use my eraser here and kind of work with this. But it's going to be a little harder for me to pull this out with the eraser because I've really pushed it down into the paper, into the fibers of the paper. But they're both great methods. I use both in my drawings, and you probably will too as we go into our grid drawings. And then I can come back in and refine this, make that core shadow a little bit more prominent. So you're just kind of constantly pushing and pulling, you know, taking out and then putting back in, taking out, putting back in. That's another way to draw your sphere. So both are great methods, and you know, I could sit and work on these for forever, but I won't. But notice two different looks as well, right? One is blended, and one you still have the texture of the paper. All right. I better stop. I'm going to beat the dead horse and just keep on going and going. So I'll stop here. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. But that's how we are going to start out our charcoal.